institutions that were built after World War II and then refined over the course of subsequent generations, I think those are unstable in ways I would not have expected. I would not have expected the legitimacy of an election and the peaceful transfer of power to have been challenged. I thought that was not something that would happen today. I would not expect the politicization of the Justice Department or our military. And I don't think that's happened. I think there's been resistance, particularly in the military, to that. But the degree to which that has been encouraged, that used to be something that I would lecture other countries not to do. You don't have your military involved in partisan politics. Its loyalty is to the Constitution. Its loyalty is not to any party. Its loyalty is not to any party, and it is not to any president. When I came into office, my working assumption was that I did not win the Pentagon vote. I'm running against John McCain, a war hero and POW, and I am a 47-year-old African-American from Chicago who had never served. And when I was sworn into office and I boarded Marine One or Air Force One, they saluted. And if I said, this is what we need to do, they said, yes, sir. And when I'm sitting with my Joint Chiefs of Staff, they are giving me their best unvarnished advice. And over time, I didn't just win them following orders. They would say, because they've written about it, I won their respect because they never saw me make a decision about national security that in any way was affected by me worrying about my politics. Because they also understood we were in the middle of two wars, and the most sacred duty I had was if I was going to send some 22-year-old kid on the other side of the world and potentially would die, I could not look myself in the mirror if I was making those decisions based on politics. That is
He deleted it and he called it out, and that's unlike some of the other posts.
How did he call it out?
He was asked directly about whether or not it was inappropriate to post. He was asked that question on Air Force One last week, and he said absolutely. It almost got no news coverage whatsoever.
No, he's
but
right. He's 100% right.
And
he talked about it was the Lion King.
The chain of events. Jason's right that eventually, and I think it was actually.
It was after.
Right. It was. I think it was actually yesterday that he said it. That he said he condemned it. The day that it happened, though, the White House released a statement saying that it was faux outrage, and they said, and they did nothing about it. They left it up for 12 hours until the backlash became so great that they were forced to take it down. So you can't omit that part of it.
Can you remember the last time he's taken something down because of outrage?
I mean, I don't think that's
I don't think that's a certificate for that. He touched the third rail.
I don't think it's a virtue that Trump. I don't think it's a virtue that what he did was so egregious that even his own members of his party, Tim Scott and others, came out and said it was racist and it should come down. And you know what? Even when Tim Scott did that, it did not immediately come down. It took many hours for it to come down after that.
Yeah, because I think what they were trying to do is get it. Here's why. Because I think the initial reaction, which I do understand, number one, because it wasn't intentional, and it clearly wasn't intentional.
How do you know it wasn't intentional?
Because you can look at the video, and they clearly played the whole thing, and then what happened towards the end there
So the president is responsible for everything he posts? The president isn't responsible for a full video that he posts? Are you saying that?
But
he's not a child. He's the president.
He did not post the full video that you're talking about. The video itself that you're talking about was, in fact, racist. There's no doubt about that.
And the president
I agree with you on that.
He has a history of
But
that.
I don't think the president actually posted that one. And if he did, he would not have
It was posted under his name.
I think to your point, what is much more likely, and this is a criticism of President Trump, is that he's a boomer who I think haphazardly did not watch till the end of the video, and he posted it without even thinking. He now bears the consequences of that, and people are assigning racial animus to him that I don't think he has.
We're not assigning it.
He's worked with a lot of
president throws out fairy tales, and people latch on to the fairy tales to keep from having to deal with the uncomfortable truth.
But the president also has a
I just don't. I didn't like it at all. I just don't see him doing this in the charged
manner. Do you
manner.
disagree that the president has a history of racism?
I definitely don't think he has the history of racism that you think he does.
Is it racist, that image itself?
The image ties into a greater AI whole video that was made on The Lion King. So,
where in The Lion King was there an ape? I don't remember that character.
The entire video. We can watch it if we want to pull up the AI video from the reel.
Yeah.
That had this whole AI video of all of the animals.
Yeah.
Period. The end. And President Trump won the Hispanic Latin vote by a historic margin, the most any other Republican has in history, the most black voters since the 1960s. He's not racist. Time and time again, he was on stage with Nicki Minaj the other day. I mean, this man is not racist.
He is a small, petty, fragile man who cannot take responsibility for his own actions. And the second reason, frankly, is because he is a racist. And we have seen Donald Trump engage in racist activity in the past, numerous times. We watched as Donald Trump took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 black kids for murdering someone who they did not murder. We saw Donald Trump start his political career by denying the citizenship of the first black president.
If it was racist and it was a mistake, why not just say that was wrong? We shouldn't have put that out. So often criticize people, including Joe Biden, for not taking responsibility, for being the auto pen guy, and then now blaming this on some staffer.
The latter part of his statement on Air Force One, they said, would you be offended? Or he said, I didn't like it. I wouldn't like it either. I mean, this was the question. And did you apologize? Are you sorry? And he said, I'm not sorry because I didn't do anything wrong. He didn't see it, so he's not apologizing for that.
Katie, you don't have to do this. Like, you don't have to debase yourself for Donald Trump in the way all of these Republicans debase themselves for Donald Trump. All can see the truth. We know there was no staffer. We know that Donald Trump has his phone.
We don't know that. We don't know that there was no staffer.
He's tweeting
we don't know. How do we know there's no staffer? Certainly could have been a staffer. He's the president of the United States. There's a lot of stuff that comes at him, right? I mean, that happens.
And it's typically how his truth posts
that is
go.
fine. But then why not say that was wrong? What accountability is there for the staffer? And by the way, what's the screening process? This is the president of the United States. I would never fly here. We couldn't do that at CNN. There's a bunch of people. And if I did something like that, I would potentially get fired. There's a vetting process. Why isn't there more of a vetting process at the White House?
Look, it was a tweet or a truth at 2:40 in the morning. And have you watched both clips? Have you watched
I watched the whole
Georgia?
clip.
And
Yeah.
as you watch it, you see at that 58-second mark,
Yeah.
a reel starts popping up and then goes back down. This is exactly how it went, and it just needed to be edited on that back end. Whether or not his staffer missed that part, I'm not going to speculate at what they're doing at 2:40 when they're asked to do this. Look,
Maybe we shouldn't be posting videos at 2:40 in the morning.
Tonight, once again, it always comes back to the Epstein files. At the end of last week, Donald Trump does a midnight social media post that the Senate's only black Republican called, quote, the most racist thing I've seen out of this White House. And tonight, even after that, it comes back to the Epstein files. On Friday, it seemed like Donald Trump's racist video of President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, a fake video, stopped the world. stopped the media world anyway, and it did stop the world for a day or two of consideration of Donald Trump's vicious racism. In the New York Times, Jamel Bowie, who will join us this evening, got it right in the headline of his article saying, "This is just who Trump is." If you've been watching Donald Trump's stupidity and racism, which are actually opposite sides of the same coin, for the decades that it has been on public display, then there was nothing surprising in Donald Trump's latest racist attack against the two highest achieving black Americans in our history, whose very existence fills Donald Trump with poisonous jealousy. Trump was learning from his father how to operate a racist real estate business and where they did everything they could to block black people from renting apartments in Trump buildings. Robert Reich's thoughtful piece about Donald Trump's racist attack on the Obamas is titled, "Is It Unkind to Describe Our President as a Racist Pig?" Racist pig. Those were the only words that I could even form for hours and hours and hours after seeing what Donald Trump posted on social media. Never forget that there are 273 elected Republican officials in Washington, 273. And less than half a dozen of them had the slightest problem with the Trump racist video about the Obamas before Donald Trump was forced to retreat and took down the video without ever apologizing, of course. That silence from all of those Republicans tells you who they are, tells you which side they're on, tells you which side they have chosen. The most prominent Republican objector was Senator Tim Scott, who said Donald Trump should remove the video, which Donald Trump did a few hours later, and of course never said he did anything wrong and never apologized. Senator Scott said, quote, "It's the most racist thing I've seen out of this White House," which provoked me to ask Senator Scott on social media to tell us about the other racist things he has seen out of this White House. What's the second most racist thing he's seen out of this White House? Senator Scott did not reply.
At least from my point of view, the question becomes, what other purpose could there have been? The post was ultimately taken down. Trump rarely deletes his content. Whether it was published directly by him or by a staff member, and I believe he posted it himself, the fact remains that he almost never removes material, even when it draws intense criticism. He did not issue an apology. However, he did delete the post, which suggests an awareness of wrongdoing. The content appeared to attempt to dehumanize a former black president and his wife. Historically, dehumanization is widely recognized as an early step toward broader hostility and even violence against individuals or groups. And Trump, who has often been described by critics as embracing authoritarian tendencies, understands the power and implications of that tactic.